Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm the Darga Velazi, and coming up in today's newscast. Tensions continue to remain high in Judea and Samaria as Israel's security forces on high alert during the Jewish high holidays. After praise from both countries, the Israel-Lebanon maritime border deal hits a snag as Israel reportedly rejects Lebanon's major amendments to the agreement. And how did one Israeli startup contribute to NASA's successful DART international space mission? Tensions continue to remain high in Judea and Samaria as Israeli security forces arrested numerous terror suspects over the Jewish holiday of Yom Kippur. The details in the following report. On Yom Kippur, Israel's defense forces and security services arrested a Palestinian man suspected of involvement in terrorist activities in the village of Deir al-Kateb in the Judea and Samaria region. 35-year-old Salman Imram was identified as an ex-prisoner affiliated with the Hamas terror organization planning attacks against Israelis. He was linked to the terrorist attack on Sunday near Nablus. The IDF said that drawing upon precise information from Israel's security agency, or Shin Bet, the forces were able to surround the suspect's home, but were met with gunfire. The IDF said it responded with gunfire and other special measures, including a bulldozer. Several terrorists were injured in the exchange, and one Palestinian was reportedly killed.
במהלך יום כיפור הקפיצו את יחידת אגוז לחטמ"ר שומרון לבצע מעצר של המחבל שעשה את הפיגוע מתחילת השבוע בין אלון מורה לאיתמר. ביצענו מעצר באור יום תוך התקלות בטווחים קרובים עם המחבל עד שהמחבל נכנע ונעצר. נכנסנו לאיתור שלו, סרקנו אותו ולקחנו את הנשק שהיה ברשותו. אנו נמשיך לפעול בכל הכוח הנדרש על מנת לסכל את הטרור בגזרת יהודה ושומרון ולהקנות ביטחון התושבים.
On Sunday, Palestinian gunmen opened fire on settlers during a rally outside Nablus and lightly injured an IDF soldier in the leg. The rally was held by settlers to protest the increase in terror attacks against Israelis in Judea and Samaria and to call on the Israeli government to take measures to curtail terror activity. And joining us now with more on the tense situation in Judea and Samaria is Itamar Marcus, founder and director of Palestinian Media Watch. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
So first of all, what can you tell us about the situation today in Judea and Samaria?
So the situation today is very tense, and what's happened is that going back a number of months, Mahmoud Abbas and the Palestinian Authority were very, very weak. In the polls, they were very, very weak. There was tremendous opposition to Abbas. In order to strengthen himself, he and the Fatah party started inciting terror, initiating terror, called on their Fatah members to go out and get involved in terror. And they did, and what's happened is now it's gotten completely out of hand, to the point where it actually threatens the stability of the Palestinian Authority, which wasn't stable in the first place. And now it seems like Abbas is trying to rein them in a little bit. At least that's what he's telling Israel. And we've yet to see if he will succeed in calming down the terror that he himself was responsible for in the first place.
And now, why has Nablus emerged as sort of the center of these clashes?
There are a number of cities where there are very, very active terror bases, terror cells that have hundreds, maybe thousands of weapons, floating around the city. They really don't care about the Palestinian Authority. They care about their own future, their own political future, their own terror organization's future. And these terror cells compete with each other. The Hamas cell competes with the Fatah, competes with the Islamic Jihad. Everyone wants to have the highest status in Palestinian society because whichever organization does the most terror gets the most status. Now, I just have to tell you something fascinating that happened in the last 24 hours related to this. Palestinian Media Watch has been reporting for a long time that mothers are literally involved in sending their kids to become martyrs, and then they appear one after the other on television after their sons are killed in terror attacks, praising them, thanking Allah that they were honored to have a son who's a martyr. And in response to this, the governor of Nablus actually issued a statement yesterday, and I just want you to hear it. He said, quote, there are abnormal mothers who send their sons off to be martyrs, and no normal mother sends her son to his death. This is what Ibrahim Ramadan, the governor of Nablus, said, that normal mothers don't send their sons to be martyrs. Now, the amazing thing is it didn't take 24 hours, and he had to go and issue a video retraction. The status of martyrs and the glory that they attach to it, and the parents, fathers, mothers going on TV, it's part of a Palestinian tradition. Oh, we're so proud our child is a martyr. We're so proud our child is a martyr. That he literally had to issue a retraction, and he issued a 7.5-minute video today where he said he didn't mean, of course, the martyrs' mothers are the most important people, et cetera, et cetera. What it's saying is just the incredible hole that Palestinian leadership have built for their people by the leadership having videos promoting martyrdom, and the leadership's talking about martyrdom, and the religious leaders talking about the rewards of the martyr for so many years. They have literally created a society where somebody can't condemn a mother for sending her child to die without getting into trouble. And this is one of the many holes that the Palestinian Authority has dug for itself. And it's going to take years or generation at least for this mentality that was this evil and hateful and self-hateful mentality that the Palestinian Authority has created. It's going to take them a generation to grow out of it.
It's inconceivable. You know, we've seen nightly raids in Judea and Samaria as part of Operation Breaking the Wave. And yet the terror waves keep coming. You know, as you mentioned, the Palestinian mothers sending their children to carry out terror attacks. I mean, is Operation Breaking the Wave having any effect?
I think it's having an effect. What keeps a wave going for a very long time is when they have, for their perspective, successes and they end up killing Israelis. The waves that started 2014, 2015, and then the other ones, when they have success, because then what we see is the killings of the Israelis, and the funerals are shown on Palestinian TV and on the social media, on the Facebook pages of Fatah, and everybody's celebrating, and then everyone wants to be like the successful terrorist. Right now, there have only been unsuccessful terrorists for a very long time, and that really puts a damper on it. So I think the army has to keep doing what it's doing. It has to get the terrorists in their homes before they leave. And that's the only way this is going to stop. And we know that we've had shooting attacks repeatedly, sometimes 2 a day for quite a while. But thank God they haven't been successful. They hope they aren't successful. And if they end up losing enough people, hopefully it'll actually pour some cold water on their fervor for terror.
And yet, you know, we're now in the midst of the Jewish high holiday. Sukkot is coming up, and many Israelis are traveling both abroad and around Israel. And there are a lot of terror threats. I mean, how concerned should the Israeli public be?
Look, there have been terror threats, we know now, you're saying, for certainly a number of weeks. And there have been shootings. And that's what's happening. The shootings that we've seen up till now in Judea and Samaria over the last few weeks have not been successful. But that's the result of the threats. That's what the threats are about.
All right, let's hope everyone has a quiet and safe holidays. Itamar, Marcus, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you very much, and Shana Tova.
Shana Tova. Now, in other news, the Lebanon maritime border deal apparently hitting a snag on Thursday as Israeli Prime Minister Yair Lapid rejecting Lebanon's amendments to the agreement. The draft presented by the United States last week was meant to be close to the final version of the deal, intended to delineate a border in the Mediterranean Sea that would likewise determine which country has rights to a number of different oil and gas resources in the area. Here to discuss the deal and the latest developments is Dr. Mordechai Cadal, researcher at the Begin Sadat Center for Strategic Studies and an expert on the Middle East. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.
So this deal, which now seems to have hit a snag, has caused a great deal of controversy. And while the details have not been made fully public yet, I mean, what can you tell us of this developing deal?
Well, I don't know the details because I didn't see the deal. It was never published. Nobody really saw any map or any agreement, but there are all kinds of information which more or less give the broad lines of this agreement. The biggest issues are that Israel gives up on a territory in the sea. In an exchange, Israel will get some percentage of a gas field which might be found between Israel and Lebanon vis-a-vis the shores of Sidon. And this is actually a deal, very dangerous deal, because Israel gives up on real estate while it gets money. It means money for land. This is a very bad precedent. First of all, we have a precedent. We have later another negotiations with Gaza, with the state of Gaza or a Palestinian state, about something which is vis-a-vis Gaza and Ashkelon as well. We have problems, you know, also in the territories. People might say, okay, give up on some people, some space in Judea and Samaria in exchange of money. What is this? Is our land to be sold for money? And amazing is that our prime minister actually leads such a thing. This is one thing. Second thing is that this government, Lapid government, is not a real government. This is an interim government.
So I want to get to the government in a second, but I do want to ask you, why does Israel need such a deal? I mean, you mentioned that it was a problematic, a bad deal. I mean, why would Israel want to go through with such a deal?
First of all, the maritime border between the Israeli economic space in the sea and the Lebanese is not yet agreed upon between Lebanon and Israel. There is a triangle of some hundreds of square kilometers, which both countries claim that this triangle belongs to them. So either they divide it or not, but yet they have to come to some kind of a deal about the real border, means the border between the Israeli and the Lebanese space, in order to be able to know where you are, where you can dig, and so forth. Second thing is, if there is a gas field which is shared by Lebanon and Israel, because it is in front of both countries, it has to be shared according to the border between Israel and Lebanon. Means if 30% is in Israel and 70% in Lebanon, means that this will be the division of the revenues. If it's 40 versus 60, so it's a different division. So this is why the marking of the border is very important. However, during the last years, Netanyahu, with a backup of the Trump administration, negotiated with the Lebanese in a very tough way. Only to see today that Lapid negotiates with them while giving in into their hands.
And so why
he agreed?
Why is Lapid going through
to all their demands?
Why is Lapid going through with this deal? Many critics are saying that it has to do with the upcoming elections November 1st, and Lapid wants sort of a win to be able to say that he's negotiated a deal with Lebanon. I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
It's not many would say, everybody would say, because everybody knows that the constituency to say that Lapid addresses in his election campaign is more or less these people who do not care so much about Israeli land, while they do care about the money, their money and the country's money. I mean, people who prefer money on real estate which belong to Eretz Israel, to the land of Israel. And this means secular people, people who are not, who are well off. And these are actually the people to whom Lapid tries to address and whom he wants to flatter. So this is why if he reaches an agreement with Lebanon, in spite of the fact that he rejected the Lebanese rejection or the Lebanese demands, new demands or amendments, there are still more than 3 weeks until the elections. And 3 weeks is a big time, a long time, in order to come to concessions with Lebanon, only because his constituency wants to see it.
Dr. Mordechai Cadal, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
My pleasure.
Israel and the European Union renewed their joint dialogue this week for the first time in over a decade. The details in the following report. Prime Minister Yair Lapid addressed delegates from the European Union on Monday, renewing a dialogue that has been absent for over a decade. EU's top diplomat Josep Borrell opened the meeting, known as the Association Council. In his remarks, he stressed the importance the EU places on peace in the region.
As I said, we will also deal with one issue of particular importance for us, which is the Middle East peace process. Prime Minister, we are very encouraged by the clear support for the two-state solution that you stated in your speech to the United Nations General Assembly. We are, however, also concerned about the continued tensions and violence on the ground and continuation of unilateral measures such as settlement expansion and the security issues.
While Lapid opted to pull out of an in-person trip, citing the upcoming elections and the complex security situation, he sent Intelligence Minister Elazar Stern to Brussels instead and addressed the conference virtually, taking the opportunity to discuss the importance of preventing Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons.
We are all united in our desire to stop Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. This is a regime that is murdering its citizens even as we speak. The word must not be silent. And even though we disagree on the JCPOA, we all agree that everything must be done to prevent Iran from becoming a nuclear state.
Lapid also addressed what he dubbed positive changes taking place in Israel's work with the Palestinian Authority.
In my speech at the UN General Assembly, as you mentioned, I expressed once more my commitment to the two-state solution. But the Palestinians need to put an end to terrorism and incitement. Israel wants peace that will lead to security, not peace that will destabilize the Middle East.
Lapid concluded his remarks by stressing the importance of dialogue and cooperation between Israel and like-minded countries, adding that the Association Council will bring to the table plans, research cooperation, technological collaboration, trade, energy, and more. And in other news, opposition leader and former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was released from the hospital Thursday after feeling unwell during Yom Kippur services. Kayla Eberlin with the report.
Former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was released from the Shaare Tzedek Medical Center in Jerusalem on Thursday morning after being kept overnight for observation. Netanyahu, who was hospitalized Wednesday evening after feeling unwell and reportedly fainting during Yom Kippur services in a Jerusalem synagogue. In a statement from his office Thursday morning, it was said that the former Prime Minister underwent a series of tests on site that came out as normal and that he was feeling well, adding that he was also already back out on his morning walk. Netanyahu, who is 72 years old, also thanked the dedicated medical staff at the hospital. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Yair Lapid wished his political rival a swift and complete recovery in a tweet sent out Wednesday night. Lapid was joined by other politicians, both from within the coalition and from Netanyahu's bloc, in wishing the opposition leader good health. Meanwhile, according to the Magen David Adom, 2,741 people were also treated over Yom Kippur, with 3 people seriously injured on the roads, and some 270 people treated for dehydration or fainting. On Wednesday, Jews around the world marked Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the Jewish year. In Israel, this is a day of atonement, where the country essentially shuts down, as religious Jews fast and pray, while secular Jews take to the streets on bicycles.
And in other news, NASA recently completed its DART mission, successfully showing how Earth-based technology can blow up a potential extraterrestrial threat, such as an asteroid, before it hits Earth. Major NASA contractors such as SpaceX participated in the mission, but once again, Israel proves that it has played a crucial part in yet another international space mission, as one small Israeli startup designed technology that contributed to this success. Here with more is aerospace correspondent for the Jerusalem Post, Yafit Ovadia. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Lidar.
So tell us more about the NASA DART mission. What was the goal?
Right. So the NASA DART mission stands for the Double Asteroid Redirection Test. And its mission was to test a method of planetary defense against near-Earth objects. Now, this specific asteroid posed no real actual threat to the Earth. This was merely a test in space. But it tested how it could use an object, such as a spacecraft, to hit an asteroid and deflect it off of its and slower its orbital speed using momentum to kind of slow it down.
Almost like science fiction movies.
Exactly.
And how exactly does DART work?
Right. So DART involved two separate spacecraft, one which was designed by NASA, and there was another one, a satellite, the Lycia Cube satellite, which was designed by the Italian Space Agency. And that actually took a picture of this happening. Now, the spacecraft was traveling through 56,000 miles of space, and it hit the asteroid at roughly 14,000 miles per hour and kind of knocked it off its course a little bit. Its goal was not to explode the asteroid, but to steer it away from Earth. And it managed to do that successfully.
And it was successfully. So had this asteroid been heading for Earth, it would have been able to alter its course?
I think.
It would have been
Yes.
safe. So, you know, you mentioned that this was an international mission, that there were the Italian Space Agency, NASA. I mean, who exactly was involved in this mission?
Right. So NASA has its own contractors. That would be SpaceX and also Northrop Grumman. And it also worked with the Italian Space Agency, as I mentioned previously. But Israel actually played a very small part in this, which is quite surprising.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about the role that Israel played in this mission?
Right. So I spoke to a space tech startup called Ramon Space. Now, they design computing solutions and storage solutions for satellites and spacecraft. Now, they happen to design a small processor that helped serve the Italian satellite and helped in delivering some of these close-up images of the collision.
So basically, we were able to see, thanks to this Israeli technology, we're actually able to see the collision and sort of everything happen in real time in action?
Yeah. And some of those images were really startling, how it captured first of all, it's in deep space. Things don't work that well out there, and it captured like live this collision happening, and there's some images that are probably going to be broadcast on screen. They're very fascinating.
That's really fascinating. And, you know, so the DART mission was successful. Is there any follow-up to the DART mission? I mean, any other potential tests that we're going to do, or any large asteroids that are maybe heading for Earth?
Well, I don't really know, Lidar. We'll have to see.
All right. And, you know, speaking of upcoming missions, Israel's space program was really put on the map with the Bereshit moon landing, which unfortunately didn't succeed in full, but we did manage to make it to the moon.
Right.
Now everyone's looking forward to the next mission. Are there any updates that you can share with us regarding the next Bereshit mission as 2023 approaches?
Right. Well, gladly. First of all, Space IL is really closing in on some of those agreements. Last year, I reported that Space IL was really interested. It sent out a call for proposals to let other countries and companies participate in the Bereshit mission. So far, it's closed a few different agreements first of all, with Ramon Space, which I've mentioned previously. They're also partnering with another space tech startup called Lulav Space to design a landing navigation sensor system to see the spacecraft make a safe landing this time. Space IL has also signed agreements with a Swedish manufacturer called AAC Clyde Space to design some of the mission computers for the landers. And recently, it's also signed some agreements with American aerospace giants Northrop Grumman and Moog to purchase engines and also some fuel tanks. So we're seeing how this is all really starting to come together.
Very exciting. Yifat Ovadia, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. And now, let's take a look at the weather forecast. Clear skies expected around the country tonight with lows averaging 19 degrees Celsius or 66 Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow, the forecast calling for partly cloudy skies along with cooler top temperatures of 29 Celsius or 85 degrees Fahrenheit. And finally on Saturday, the weather remaining much the same with temperatures ranging from mid to high 20s. That's all for today's news. For more updates from Israel on all your devices, check out our website, iltv.tv, and subscribe to our newsletter as well as our streaming platform, ILTV+. I'm Ladar Gravelazi. Be well, and thank you so much for watching.
Hi everyone, it's Emmanuel Kadosh. I wanted to invite you all to subscribe to ILTV+, where you can find our daily news and updates about Israel. And not only that, but live feeds, entertainment, our kosher food show, and so much more. Needless to say, your subscription to ILTV+ helps us grow and create more content while also supporting the state of Israel. Our app is available on all platforms and devices, so I'll see you guys there.
News.